Alright, scan it again.
We gotta sit here for 45 minutes.
45.
Oh, I thought she said 45. I about fell out.
Okay.
Okay, I'm Melissa. This speech is a cultural speech on the Cherokee Indians. And I'm going to be discussing some of the things that they faced in their past and in their history. What kind of religion they had and things like that. And what really set them apart from us. And a lot of times I think back to why this culture appeals to me so much, and I believe it is because I have Cherokee Indian bloodline in my ancestry. So anytime I hear the beating of the drums or their, powwows or anything like that, it really just, gets my blood pumping. But some of the things that they faced in their history was their settlement, which was in the area of North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama. It was 140,000 square miles of land where they settled. They also had to deal with poverty and illness and death. And some of the illness that happened to the Cherokees was they had to encounter smallpox, which was brought over by the Europeans. And they faced more death with smallpox than in any war that they ever fought in. The next thing was a big episode in history, and it was called the Trail of Tears. It lasted from 1838 to 1839. And this is, it was commanded by President Jackson to remove the Cherokee Indians from their land and in the eastern part of the United States. So in the summer of 1838, they started removing the Cherokee Indians out of that area. And it was a huge cultural memory, and what they called it was the trail where they cried. So over 4,000 died on this Trail of Tears from hunger, exposure, and disease that they encountered along the trail. And they when they moved them out of this area, the Trail of Tears, they had to move them from the eastern side of the United States to they set up reservations in Oklahoma, which is where most of them have settled now. Now there was a small group that did resist the movement, the Trail of Tears, and they became North Carolina citizens. And the federal government actually did recognize them in 1868, and they were recognized as their Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians. They didn't really believe in a certain religion. They believed that there should be harmony and there should be balance with the earth. They didn't use the word religion. They just felt like they should be one with the earth, and they believed in the upper world spirits that would keep that balance with them. They did different rituals. One was called going to the water, and they believed that in order to keep that balance, they would go and to the nearest river or creek, and they would have to dip 7 times. Then when they would come out of the water, they believed that their spirit was healed and that they were cleansed. And another ceremony was called the annual green corn ceremony, where they would take the previous year's corn and they would burn it, and then the women, which were the farmers of the Cherokee tribe, they would bring out the new corn, and it was to symbolize a new beginning. And this is just another way to reiterate the balance and everything. So the different types of people that came in, the Europeans, they brought in religion, Christianity. And so some of the Cherokee Indians did adopt that way of life. Some accepted the Christianity. The New Testament of the Bible was actually translated into Cherokee syllabary. And they also blended some of their values in with the churches. And there's over 10,000 in North Carolina now that are Christians. Although they use their traditional ideas like herbal plants and things like that for healing. There were some things that did set them apart, like their dress. They, of course, wore the Indian dress, like they're called hunting shirts is what the men wore. They wore moccasins. And Cherokee Indians, contrary to what everybody, pictures an Indian as, they did not wear full headdresses, most of them, depending on the tribe. They would have what you call a scalp lock, which they would shave their whole head and have one patch of hair where they would tie a feather to it. And that's how most Cherokee Indians did wear their hair. The men, like I said, would wear the hunting shirts with deerskin pants, and they had a beaded belt. Another thing that set them apart was their wedding rituals. And I thought this was really interesting because during their weddings, the man and woman getting married would not exchange rings, but they would exchange food. The men would bring meat to symbolize that they're the hunter and they're the provider for the family. The woman would bring corn, which symbolized that they were the farmers. They would be covered for the ceremony in one blue blanket, and then at a certain part of the ceremony they had take the blue blanket off, and they were both covered in a white blanket of their own. So even though they did encounter a lot of things and they had to adopt a lot of different ways of life, they did continue to be strong people, and they will forever be Cherokee Indians.